In the last video, I talked with you what poetry is, its origin, and shared a couple elements. This video will discuss the different elements of poetry in detail. So the first we will tackle will be line and stanza, which you were also introduced earlier. But we will dig deeper into it in this video in relation to the other elements of poetry. So line and stanza. So stanza is a group of lines set off from others by a blank line or indentation. So it describes the main building block of a poem. It is similar to paragraph in essays or the verses in songs. So every stanza usually has its own subject and purpose. And then every stanza may also be made using a rhyme scheme, which is another element I will discuss with you later on. So the line is a part of the poem or a stanza which is comprised with a group of words arranged into a row that ends at the right hand margin. Now it is similar to a sentence in essays or the line in songs. And the combination of several lines will result into a stanza. Also, a line has a meter, which relates to the overall stanza or poem, and that meter is the next element of poetry. Meter. So meter is the basic rhythmic structure of a line in a poem. Basically, it is a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. It has two components. The first component of a meter is the number of lines. With that, the meter counts the specific length of the poem. If we count length by inches or centimeters, or count the size of water by liters, we count the meter of a poem by syllables. For example, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. It has four stanzas and four lines in each stanza, and in each line it has eight syllables. Whose woods these are, I think I know. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. His house is in the village though. It's still eight. Then he will not see me stopping here. Eight. To watch his woods fill up with snow. It's eight syllables. No, it has four lines in a stanza and it has eight syllables per line. Isn't that amazing? And the second component of meter is the pattern of emphasis on those syllables, which relates to stressed and unstressed syllables. First, let us define what a syllable is. So, a syllable is a unit of speech which is single and has a sound. It may have a vowel sound or one or more consonant sounds before or after it. There are monosyllabic words which contains only one syllable. This includes head, a, the, hen, pen, and rain. So there are also polysyllabic words which contains more than one syllable. This includes under, ahead, amended, and authority. And when it comes to syllables, it can be further broken down into two types, the stressed and the unstressed syllables. So what are the stressed and unstressed syllables? When you say stress, it relates to emphasis. Basically, a stressed syllable is the part of a word that you say with greater emphasis than the other syllables. The opposite of that is the unstressed syllables, which is a part of a word that you say with less emphasis. And to understand more about stress and unstressed syllables, I recommend you to watch this video later after you watch this video. So see the link in the description about the video recommendation. With that, the combinations of stress and unstressed syllables lead to different types of metrical feet, which relates to the sound and rhythm, which is the next element of poetry. So the elements of poetry are interrelated. You should remember that. Sound and rhythm. The sound and rhythm are the other elements of poetry. When you read the poetry, you can feel a harmonious tone. In poetry, rhythm refers to the metrical rhythm that involves the arrangement of syllables into repeating patterns called feet. So here are the common types of metrical feet in poetry. First, there's the iamb, which consists of one unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. It is pronounced as da, as in exclude, despair, repeat, and indeed. So second, there's the trochee, which consists of one stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. It is pronounced as da, as in sister, flower, splinter, and ladder. So third, there's the dactyl, which consists of one stressed syllable followed by two unstressed syllables. It is pronounced as da, as in similar and certainly. Fourth, there's the anapest, which consists of three syllables where the first two are unstressed and the last syllable is stressed. So it is pronounced as da, as in comprehend and what the heck. So as you can see in anapest, it may include a combination of multiple words. Fifth, there's the sponde, which contains two stressed syllables. It is pronounced as the, as in drum beat or TV. Okay, six, there's also the pyrrhic, which contains two unstressed syllables that is pronounced as dada. So, metrical feet are repeated over the lines in a poem to create a poetic meter. The types of length of a poetic meter are the following, which are also called as the common types of meter: 1 foot monometer, 2 feet diameter, 3 feet trimeter, 4 feet tetrameter, 5 feet pentameter, 6 feet hexameter, 7 feet heptameter, 8 feet octameter. So specifically, if you look at the examples, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, the poem is a tetra-iambic poem. It shows a perfect iambic tetrameter. So tetrameter means 4 feet. So tetra-iambic means 4 iambs or 4 unstressed stressed beats. So let's look at the example again. Uh, in the video, it shows you that the bold letters are the stressed syllables while the regular ones are unstressed. And that extends to the rest of the poem. And the next element would be rhyme and rhyme scheme. Rhyme. Rhyme is the repetitive pattern of sounds found in poetry. They are used to reinforce the pattern of rhyme scheme. Rhymes reinforces the rhyme scheme. So not all poetry has to rhyme, but specific forms of poetry must rhyme because it is an essential part of them. So there are many different types of rhymes that poets use. It includes the end rhyme, which is common types of rhyme that occurs when the last word of two or more lines rhyme. So it also includes imperfect rhymes that occurs when words don't have identical sounds but it still rhymes. There are also rhymes that occurs in the middle of the line, which is called the internal rhyme. Aside from those three, there are other types of rhymes that you can research on your own for further studies. Rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme is the pattern of sounds that repeats at the end of a line or stanza. Rhyme schemes can change line by line, stanza by stanza, or can continue throughout a poem. Poems with rhyme schemes are generally written in formal verse, which has a strict measure. So rhyme scheme patterns are formatted in different ways. The patterns are encoded by letters of the alphabet. So lines designated with the same letter rhyme with each other. For example, the rhyme scheme AB means the first and the third lines of a stanza, or the A's rhyme with each other. And the second line rhymes with the fourth line, B. So here are some rhyme schemes. Alternate rhyme. This rhyme scheme is used in four-line stanzas. The first and third lines rhyme with the second and fourth lines rhymes. It's the AB rhyme scheme. So a good example of this is the Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Example would be a ballad. It is a lyric poem that strictly uses the A B C B C rhyme scheme. It usually has three 8-line stanzas and conclude with a 4-line stanza. In ballad, the last line of each stanza is the same, which is called a refrain. So here's a good example, which is a stanza from the ballad of The Optimist by Andrew Lang. And sometimes on a summer's day, to solve on every mortal aim, we give the slip we steal away to walk beside some edgy ruin. The darkening years, the cares that kill, a little while are well forgot. When deep in bloom upon the hill, we'd rather be alive than not. So here's the conclusion of that poem. So pistol without is to fulfill the task the braggart tongue begas. We eat or live with better will, would rather be alive than not. So briefly, here's the entire ballad of The Optimist by Andrew Lang. Take note of the ending of each stanza. So look at it. So and now I will keep the other types of rhyme schemes brief. First, the coupled rhyme. It is a two-line stanza that follows the AA, BB, and CC rhyme. Next is the minor rhyme in which all the lines in the stanza or the poem ends with the same pattern. It has an AAAA pattern. So another pattern would be the ABBA, which is called the enclosed rhyme. So the first and fourth line rhymes, while the second and third line rhymes. So next would be the simple 4 lines rhyme, which follows the ABCB pattern throughout the entire poem. And the triplet has 3 lines in a stanza called tercet that share the same end rhyme. It has the AAA pattern. Another rhyme scheme is called the terza rima. It is an Italian form of poetry that has a chain rhyme in which the second line of each stanza rhymes with the first and last line of the subsequent stanza. The pattern is ABA, BCB, CDC, DD, and so on, EE. So there's also the limerick, which is a 5-line poem with AABBA rhyme scheme. Also, the chain rhyme is a rhyme scheme in which stanzas are linked together by rhymes that carry over from one stanza to the next, such as the terza rima with the ABA, BCB, and CDC structure. And for familiarity, let's look at the rhyme scheme of the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Look at the screen. So, similar to the terza rima, it has a chain rhyme in which the third line of each stanza rhymes with the first, second, and last line of the subsequent stanza. Then in the last stanza, the lines resolve the continuous chain rhyme. Thus, the rhyme scheme is A B A, B C B B, C D C C, and D. Okay, imagine how excellent this poem is. You have talked about its line, its stanza, its meter, and its rhyme. Uh, Subject and theme. The subject of the poem varies across forms. A subject is what the poem is about. Many poems talk about love, admiration for a person, pain, heartache, and separation. Other poems, specifically divine sonnets, talk about God, higher beings, enlightenment, and salvation. Also, elegies talk about a person or persons who is already dead, and some poems tackle the subject of nature, life, or more, and more. Remember that creative writing is expressive. You can write poetry about any subjects, explore any topic, and enjoy the freedom of creative writing. So, theme. Meanwhile, the theme is a recurring idea in the poem. This is related to the subject, and the theme of a poem can include love, nature, death, beauty, nationalism, children, and more. So the two terms, subject and theme, can be confusing to differentiate in the beginning. So subjects and themes exist in other types of creative writing as well, such as fiction, short story, drama, and movies or film. So it has a universal meaning. Remember that. So the theme relates to the central message of the poem. It can be implicit, and meanwhile, the subject is the explicit subject matter of the book. So a theme is implied when the subject is clearly stated. So, stopping by woods on a snowy evening tackles the following subject. Of a man riding a horse in an evening during winter time. He stopped in the woods, and the poem tells us the man's thought processes, his horse reaction, and his final decision in the last stanza. You also know that the narrator has a long way to go towards his destination. So those are the subject of the poem. In a much deeper implied level, the theme of the poem can be nature versus society, uh, social obligation versus personal desire. So it could also be hesitation and choice. So as you can see, there are other possible interpretations of the poem, but let's not dig deeper into that. So the next element of poetry we will discuss are tone and mode. In literary analysis, the tone is an author's attitude toward their subject matter. The author's tone in a literary work can reflect their personal opinion, or the tone can channel the feelings of a particular character. Authors convey tone through their word choice, punctuation, and sentence structure. Mood. Well, tone signifies an author's point of view. The mood of a piece of writing is the atmosphere of a piece and the overall feeling it conveys to the reader. So authors convey mood through figurative language and literary devices, letting the readers feel whatever mood the writing evokes. So the tone and mode of the poem relates to diction, which you learned in a previous video. This also relates to the choices of words, the syntax or the arrangement of words, the imagery and the figurative language and other elements of creative writing. So this relates to the impression the readers have of the text.